So this is part 2 of our Sraddha to Prema seminar. What is this Sraddha to Prema? Sraddha to Prema means the progressive pathway of one who begins the self-realization process and one who perfects it in all the steps in between. To study this great science of awakening of the self, we read the works of the great acharyas, the great saintly teachers of the past. Tonight we will study from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 23, text number 13, for the purport in which Prabhupada quotes from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. To understand this gradual process of going from Sraddha to Prema, or how one awakens one dormant Krishna consciousness from its earliest beginnings to its full-blown perfection. Se bhava haile dare prema nama, se prema prayojana sarvanam dadama. Translation. When that ecstatic emotional stage intensifies, it is called love of Godhead. Such love is life's ultimate goal and the reservoir of all pleasure. Purport by Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur summarizes this growth of love of Godhead as a gradual process. A person becomes interested in devotional service by some good fortune. Eventually he becomes interested in pure devotional service without material contamination. At that point, a person wants to associate with devotees. As a result of this association, he becomes more and more interested in discharging devotional service in the hearing and chanting. The more one is interested in hearing and chanting, the more he is purified of material contamination. Liberation from material contamination is called anartha nibritti, indicating a diminishing of all unwanted things. This is the test of development in devotional service. If one actually develops the devotional attitude, he must be freed from the material contamination of illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. These are the preliminary symptoms. When one is freed from all material contamination, his firm faith in devotional service awakens. When firm faith develops, a taste arises, and by that taste, one becomes attached to devotional service. When this attachment intensifies, the seed of love of Krishna fructifies. This position is called priti or rati, affection, or bhava, emotion. When rati intensifies, it is called love of Godhead. This love of Godhead is actually life's highest perfection and the reservoir of all pleasure. Thus, devotional life is divided in two stages, sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti. Sadhana bhakti refers to the development of devotional service through the regulative principles. The basic principle for the execution of devotional service is faith. Above that, there is association with devotees, and after that there is initiation by a bona fide spiritual master. After initiation, when one follows the regulative principles of devotional service, one becomes freed from all unwanted things. In this way, one becomes firmly fixed and gradually develops a taste for devotional service. The more the taste grows, the more one desires to render service to the Lord. In this way, one becomes attached to a particular mellow in the Lord's service, Shanta, dasha, sokya, vatsalya, or madhurya. As a result of such attachment, bhava develops. Bhava bhakti is the platform of purified goodness. By such purified goodness, one's heart melts in devotional service. Bhava bhakti is the first seed of love of Godhead. This emotional stage is there before one attains pure love. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapalakamam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Savagana Ragamitam Vitam Sajivam Sadaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri ISKCON Melbourne. So, why one would be interested in this development of Krishna consciousness? Why not making money or becoming famous or becoming a great inventor or something like that? Why one would want this thing called Krishna consciousness? Well, the reason this Krishna consciousness is desirable, is the most desirable for you, is its results are permanent. Anything else you may achieve in this world, it's only temporary. When this body is finished, whatever you've achieved, it is finished. So you may work very hard to become a powerful politician, a wealthy businessman, a famous rock and roll singer, a published author, or whatever you may be aspiring to do. A well-respected man around the community, whatever you may be aspiring to do. But it will all be finished. If you can take to that thing, which is never finished, that is called Krishna consciousness. If you're going to endeavor to achieve something, which we do every day, we endeavor to achieve things. Why not endeavor for that thing which can never be taken away? You see, this is called intelligence. Isn't that common sense? Why should I endeavor for something that will be taken away from me by death? Why not endeavor for that thing which I will never lose? This is Krishna consciousness. This is why an intelligent person who is enlightened with proper knowledge takes to the pathway of Krishna consciousness. He does whatever is necessary to keep body and soul together. He doesn't neglect his body. But he doesn't take that as his prime duty. He takes that as a secondary duty. Just like you take care of your car, you put gas in the tank, you fill the air in the tires, you put oil, water, you make sure it's properly cared for. But feeding yourself, that is more important than feeding your car. So in the same way, this material body is simply a vehicle in which we are traveling in this present life. So one should not take it as the all in all. In the modern day society, we take it as the all in all. This is a difficulty. This is why we're very fortunate that this great personality, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, has given us this knowledge to help us understand where we can put our energies in such a way that we can achieve something which can never, ever, ever be taken away from us. This is the great kindness of Prabhupada. He's given us this knowledge. Now we can live in such a way that we can accumulate permanent assets, not temporary assets. So, one of the great predecessors of Prabhupada is Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Prabhupada's spiritual master was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and his father was Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not initiate his son as his own disciple. But he sent his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to one of his disciples, to become the disciple of his disciple. And that was Gorkishore Das Babaji. So Prabhupada is here quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is the position of a bona fide spiritual master. He does not invent some new teaching. Rather, he takes that which has been carefully explained by the previous acharyas, and he presents it in a way which is suitable for the present audience. So it's very nicely summarized here by Prabhupada, and quoting Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all these different stages. The first thing is you have faith in the process, as described here. By good fortune, one becomes interested in devotional service. What is that good fortune? How does that happen? Is it like winning the lottery, or what is it? You see, by good fortune. There's a very nice verse describing this in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Brahmanda Brahmite Karna Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhaktilata Bij. A living entity, after wandering all over the universe from the higher planets to the lower planets to the 8,400,000 different species of life, who is very fortunate by the combined mercy of Guru and Krishna, gets the seed of bhakti, the seed of devotional service planted in his heart. So how does that happen? It can happen in any number of ways. You may have a friend who tells you about Krishna consciousness. You may get a book. There's so many ways that people come to Krishna consciousness. But that is a very special thing when you get that seed of bhakti planted in your heart. You see? It's a very special thing. So what does a seed mean? It means it requires watering. Seed means it requires to be protected from weeds also. So on this pathway we have to water the seed. And what is that watering process? That is the chanting. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. And what are the weeds? Illicit sex life, meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and the more subtle ones too, like pride, egotism, arrogance. So, if one is very fortunate, he gets that seed which gives him this faith in this process of awakening, the dormant, transcendental nature of the self. As Prabhupada says, eventually he becomes interested in pure devotional service without material contamination. So what does this mean? It means that there is devotional service with contamination also, with material contamination. This is called Sakama Bhakti. One approaches God, but he's approaching God, God give me this, God give me, give me, give me, give me. He wants to take from God. He's approaching God. He's bowing down to God, which is devotional service. But he wants most of the service to come to himself. But he's not so interested in giving so much service to God. So that's sort of bhakti or devotion is materialistic, and it does not enable one to become spiritually perfect. But here it is stated that he becomes interested in pure devotional service without material contamination. And this is described by Rupa Goswami. Sarvapadi vanirmuktam tatparit mena nirmalam rishikesha rishikena sevanam bhakta uchate. One should be free of all material designations. I'm not a man, I'm not a woman, I'm not Indian, I'm not an Australian, I'm not a little kid, I'm not a senior citizen, I'm none of these things. You see? And we should be free of all material designation, free from all material contamination. Lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. These are material contaminations. One should be restored to his original pure identity. What is that? I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. In which he engages his senses in the service of the master of the senses, Rishikesha, Krishna. So, that is devotional service, in pure form devotional service. When one wants to give up all the false identifications of the self, of the body, he wants to become free from all the contamination, and he simply wants to engage his senses 24 hours in the service of the Lord. This desire is the most wonderful turning point in the soul's sojourn after millions and billions of lifetimes in the cycle of birth and death. When he makes this desire rises in his heart, it's the most glorious turning point, because it means now he'll become free from all the anxieties of material existence, all the difficulties. He'll become free from all of them by this desire to regain his original identity, his original spiritual identity that he had before he entered into this material existence. Actually, this is more or less a dream state. It's real, but it's not what it appears to be. This is simply a temporary manifestation, this material existence. It's not our real home. It appears that it is our home, but actually it's not our real home. Our real home is in that world which is never destroyed. That's the Vaikuntha world, not this world. This world goes through cycles of manifestation and non-manifestation. So you can't have a permanent shelter here. Even if you're Lord Brahma, the Lord of the whole material universe, you don't have a permanent shelter here. This is a temporary place. It's like you move into some apartment, but it's slated to be torn down next week by the government and put in a highway. How much would you take your decorating your apartment very seriously? They're going to tear it down next week, you see. This is the temporary, this whole universe is temporary. This body is temporary. So, the intelligent person, he doesn't put so much energy into this body, only what is necessary to stay healthy. He's not interested in putting so much energy into the material body. And the paraphernalia of the material body. Rather, he's interested to invest his energy in the transcendental nature of the self, in its eternal relationship, eternal loving relationship with the Supreme Self. That is his interest. So, because he has such interest, then what does he want to do? He wants to associate with devotees. Why? Because they are the persons who are seriously trying to awaken that enlightened consciousness. Whatever you want to do, you associate with persons who are doing that. If you want to be a guitar player, you associate with guitar players. So that way you can learn, you can advance quickly by associating with guitar players. What is that talking going on? Shut that window. And shut that window. So, wherever it is. So, by this association then, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Sangat Sanjayate Kama. One's consciousness is developed according to the company that he keeps. So if one associates with transcendentalists, with those who desire to awaken that enlightened, that dormant, enlightened consciousness within, that simply by that association one is propelled forward along the pathway. By association it becomes very easy actually to take this pathway. If you associate with people who are interested in gratifying their senses, that's how your mind will gravitate. Whoever you associate with, your mind gravitates in that direction. Why? Man is a social animal. We want to, that's our nature, just like birds flock together It's amazing to watch the birds. A whole flock of birds, I mean, they're completely coordinated. You see, much more coordinated than human beings could be. Sometimes they try to coordinate, the air shows. They try to coordinate the jet planes flying around and they crash. The pilots get killed. You ever see the birds crashing? It's amazing. 500 birds flying in perfect formation. Not one bird bashes his head on another bird. It's amazing. You see, the ability they have to flock together, is amazing. So, we human beings also have a flocking nature. It's built into us. We are flockers also. So take that flocking tendency and utilize it for your benefit. You can use it for your detriment, or you can use it for your benefit. You choose who you're going to flock with. You see. Let me flock with those who are getting out of this material existence. If I don't flock with them because of my flocking nature, I will flock with those who are becoming more entangled in this material existence. So use your flocking tendency and associate with those who are getting out of this place. That is intelligence. So then Prabhupada continues here. As a result of this association, he becomes more and more interested in discharging devotional service and hearing and chanting. So there's three things: to do service, to hear and chant. But why is it? I mean, why does that association make you more interested in hearing and chanting? Well, the fact is, the devotees are relishing great bliss in doing these activities. By doing devotional service, it's like dancing in ecstasy. Doing devotional service is like dancing in ecstasy. And hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna, this is dancing in ecstasy. The soul is actually dancing in ecstasy when one engages in devotional service and hearing and chanting. So if you associate with people who are dancing in ecstasy, well, you're going to dance in ecstasy also. Why not? I mean, everybody wants to be ecstatic, so people are dancing in ecstasy. The tendency is to join them in dancing in ecstasy. So this bhakti yoga process means the soul is 24 hours a day dancing in ecstasy. And then the next point is, the more one is interested in hearing and chanting, the more he is purified of material contamination. That makes it even more ecstatic, you see. Not only is it blissful in the beginning, but as you become more and more cleansed of all the dirt, which is simply a cause of anxiety, it becomes more blissful, you see. If somebody comes to the process of Krishna consciousness and they stay with it, and they follow it just like Prabhupada is explaining it, they're going to become more blissful, more blissful. See, in the material world, it's just the opposite. Because we base our happiness on our material situation. When you're young, you got energy, you have sex power, etc., etc. You're attractive, you see. There's some enjoyment there, material sense gratification. But if your happiness is based on that body, what's going to happen to your happiness? The old people just dream of their youth. They just live in the memories of their youth because they're so miserable in their present situation. They're miserable. They want to enjoy their senses, they can't. They want to eat so many tasty foods, they can't. It makes them sick. Their bodies can't digest like they used to be able to. So many problems with old bodies. So, by taking to Krishna consciousness, it's just the opposite. Instead of becoming more miserable as you get older, the devotee becomes more and more ecstatic. Why? Because he's connecting He's becoming more and more in contact with his eternal, youthful nature. It actually means you become younger. That's the amazing thing. The older you get in Krishna consciousness, the younger you become. Because the nature of the soul is an ever-fresh youth. Just like Krishna is Nava Yovanam, an ever-fresh youth, the soul is also an ever-fresh youth. So the more you come to your original nature, the more you become youthful. Even though the body may be old, you are not old. You develop the mood, the demeanor, the joy. You're able to maintain and increase the joy of youthfulness, even in your old age. Prabhupada was the perfect example of that. On the morning walks, the boys could hardly keep up with him. Young, healthy guys in their 20s, they could hardly keep up with an 80-year-old man. He was so full of energy, you see. He had intelligence and wit that far exceeded what any of us had, you see. So when you connect with the spiritual nature within, then you tap into that gold mine of eternal youthfulness. So it's a natural thing that as you become more and more absorbed in Krishna consciousness, you become more and more enlivened, more and more enthused, more and more energized, more and more happy, more and more peaceful, more and more fearless. All these wonderful things are the wonderful fruits of cultivating the seed of bhakti within your heart. Prabhupada continues here. He says, liberation from material contamination is called anartha nivritti, indicating a diminishing of all unwanted things. So there's the gross things, as I mentioned earlier, we read earlier, sinful activities. They are very attractive for one who's in material consciousness, because they titillate the senses. But one who is awakened is dormant, enlightened consciousness. He says, why should I waste my time with these activities? They just pull me back into an anxiety-ridden state of bodily consciousness. Why should I lower myself onto some plane of cheap thrills, which is going to do nothing but put me into anxiety? Why not keep myself on the plane of spiritual bliss by following these regulated principles? So as one naturally then experiencing and understanding how these anarthas, these unwanted dirts in the heart, are nothing but causes of anxiety. They're not actually causes of enjoyment. The more one realizes this and tastes it and experiences it, he naturally becomes more and more disinterested in sense gratification. And then the result is, he goes to the next stage of being called Nishta stage, which is firm faith. In the beginning, we discussed this last night, in the beginning he has faith, but it's not completely firm. The Sraddha stage means there is faith, but it's not completely firm. Now on the Nishta stage, after he's purified himself of this contamination, now his faith is very, very solid. Pakka. And then Mahaprabhu explains it, when firm faith develops, a taste arises, and by that taste, one becomes attached to devotional service. So what is that taste? Bhakti ras. What is that taste? It is the taste of loving reciprocation with God. Actually, how can we describe such a taste? To have a direct, loving reciprocation with God. This has really amazed me about this wisdom. I was a young spiritual seeker back in Denver, Colorado in 1968. I hadn't found out about ISKCON or Prabhupada at the time. I had been encountered these different gurus who were saying that I'm God, you're God, we're all God. And I tried being God, but it really didn't work very well. I tried being, but it didn't work. So I was looking for some system of meditation that could actually liberate me from the anxieties of material existence. Some friend actually introduced me to the Hare Krishna mantra. Some friend of mine named Patrick Dolan. He turned me on to the mantra one night in Denver, Colorado. And around that time I also found the Bhagavad Gita. It wasn't the Prabhupada Gita. They weren't available in Denver at that time, but I found a Bhagavad Gita that at least one of the verses was translated correctly. Sometimes they're correct. It was 9:26. Patram pushpam phalam poyam yogi bhakta prayachati tadaham bhakta prahritam vashnami prayatatmana. Krishna says, if you will offer me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So I was amazed by that verse. Because as a Christian, we never had any access to God. You can't approach God. Only Jesus can do that, you see. You have no personal access to God. But in Bhagavad Gita, I learned that I had personal access to God. You see, wow. Now that's pretty amazing. I can actually give God something, personally give it to Him. He'll accept it from me, little old me. You see? I was amazed. I can give something to God and He'll accept it from me. I never, in Christianity, even ever learned such a concept. So, actually, that's what happens. You're able to have direct loving exchange with God in Krishna consciousness. Of course, Guru is there as a transparent by a medium. That's also a fact, but Prabhupada explains it is simultaneously direct and indirect. By the mercy of Guru, you have a direct connection with God. You're directly relating with God. Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita purport. So that was an amazing thing to me. And that actually, that's why it's so tasty, that's why it's so sweet. Because we all know to associate with some important person. It's very tasty, just like sometimes people ask me, well, did you personally associate with George Harrison? I think, wow. I said, well, my godbrothers did. If you can have the association of some big, famous, powerful, intelligent person, an opulent person, that's considered a very great thing. Guess who was on the airplane with me the other day? And Bob Dylan was sitting next to me on the airplane, and we talked. So many, people go, wow, on the airplane with Bob Dylan. Of course, some of you may not have heard of him. Some famous person. If you can have some reciprocation with a famous person, a powerful person, a beautiful person, a renounced person, a highly knowledgeable person, a wealthy person, a famous person, then people go, wow, you met Paul McCartney the other day when you went to Govinda's restaurant in London? Well, tell me about it. See, people are interested in such things. Because we want to have that reciprocation with somebody who's some very opulent person. We want to have, it's a natural psychology. Some great hero. We want to have contact with a great hero. So just imagine if you can have direct contact 24 hours a day with a supreme hero, the greatest hero in the history of the existence. You can be in constant association with that person. That's Krishna consciousness. That person who's more famous, more powerful, more renounced, more knowledgeable, more wealthy, more beautiful than every powerful, beautiful, renounced wealthy, famous, and intelligent person in the history of existence, put together and multiplied by 10 billion times. You see, that's Krishna. That is Krishna. And if you can have a direct, intimate contact with that person at every minute of your life for all of eternity, wow, what an incredible experience that would be. And that's what we're just teaching you in the Krishna consciousness movement, how you can do that. You can be an intimate associate of that Supreme Person who is emanating all the universes from himself and all the living entities from his transcendental body at this very minute. Nothing exists except for by dint of its being emanated from Krishna. Nothing exists. Melbourne does not exist except Krishna is emanating Melbourne from his transcendental body right now. Australia does not exist. The planet Earth does not exist. This whole universe does not exist. All the living entities that make up this universe, they do not exist except by dint of the fact that Krishna is emanating all of them from his transcendental body right now. You included. So you can have an intimate relationship with that person at every minute, having loving reciprocation with him. This Sraddha Prema process is the way to come to that stage where you can see God directly in front of you at every minute, and you can have constant personal loving exchange with him at every minute. Your own personal relationship, not that you're in a crowd of 10 million, seeing him up there on some big mountaintop and you're just bowing down. In the Vaikuntha planets, it's like that. But in Krishna Loka, he's your buddy, or he's your boyfriend, you see. Or he plays the role of your darling son. You can have an intimate relationship with Krishna. And he'll reciprocate you that way for all of eternity, according to your desire to reciprocate with them in a certain way, as a girlfriend, as a boyfriend, as a parent. You see, whatever your natural, those, it's probably explained in this purport, in the higher stages, you'll actually realize you have a certain eternal relationship with Krishna. It's already there. We probably talked about it here in this purport. He said that if one becomes firmly fixed, he develops the taste, then the more the taste grows, the more he desires to render service. In this way he becomes attached. This is called the asakti stage. He becomes attached to a particular mellow in the Lord's service. Now we don't try to jump ahead to that now, that's artificial. Think, well, I think I would like to be a gopi girl. I mean, that would be a pretty cool thing to be. I think I'd like to be a gopi girl, meditate on being a gopi in Krishna's pastimes. That'd be pretty cool. Or a cowherd boy, stealing his, grabbing into Krishna's lunch bag and getting one of those glove jamuns that Mother Jasoda made for him, No, but we can't artificially meditate. You have to actually qualify yourself for, it's called Swarup Siddhi, to realize your Swarup. You have to qualify yourself in becoming a pure devotee. First become a pure devotee through this process. Have faith, associate with devotees, get initiated, give up all your bad habits, your dirty, lusty, greedy, angry, envious habits. Get rid of them. You see, become very pure, saintly person, fully absorbed in hearing and chanting Krishna's name 24 hours a day and serving him 24 hours a day. And then your faith will become unflinchingly solid, and then you'll develop, it becomes so tasty, so delicious, you could say, okay, Prabhus, we're having a kirtan now, everybody come on over, we have a 10,000 year kirtan tonight, starting tonight, we're going to, everybody come, come to this room right now, we're going to have a 10,000 year seminar on Sraddha Prema. For 10,000 years now, going to stay in this room and just talk about Sraddha Prema. Say, well, I don't know, I think I get bored after maybe an hour, I don't know if I can handle 10,000 years discussion. But on the Ruchi stage, you can do that, you see. And that's the way you can test if you have the Ruchi stage. If you can go to a kirtan and go on for, a week, a year, 10 years, just keep going in the kirtan, and continually become ever more enlivened, never think, I wish this kirtan would stop. See, that's ruchi. When you develop a taste that you can just relish unlimitedly, unceasingly, Krishna conscious activities. You see? And then from there, then you go to the stage of attachment where you can actually realize what is your relationship with Krishna. So don't before you get ruchi, before you have genuine ruchi, where you can just do bhakti, 24 hours a day, and never get tired of it, and just don't try to artificially jump ahead to imagine what you are in Krishna's transcendental abode. That will be counterproductive for your progress. Simply take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, follow his instructions, and this way all the anarthas will gradually go away. You'll develop firm faith, and then gradually you can come to that position. We read in yesterday morning's Bhagavatam class, Narada Prabhupada is talking in his purport that even one can achieve pure devotion even in the existing duration of life. You don't have to wait for death to finally get rid of all the crud in your heart. You can do it now. Gradually, you can do it now by very seriously cultivating pure bhakti. So we can ask now for some questions. A few minutes, maybe 10 minutes. Any questions written down? No? If there's no questions, we can just stop. Or maybe someone would like to ask one out loud. We can wait a minute. Everybody's looking at everybody else. Yeah.
The material world is very competitive, and the devotee who sees someone who's equal should be friends. The Shastras say if someone is more qualified than us, then we should take their shelter. But in material world relationships, when we're trying to live as a devotee, the competitive mood is very, very great. How is a devotee to have that balance if they're engaged in material activities to maintain the body?
Well, Prabhupada explains in one, I remember reading, he said, a Krishna conscious businessman can aspire to become the wealthiest businessman in the whole world. So in the material world, if one is in a position where he can be competitive and become wealthy or famous or anything like that, that's fine, go for it. Because you can use that for Krishna. We have no problem with being competitive in the material world. Not that we have to be non-competitive in the material world. That's a great mistake that people have sometimes. Well, years ago when I first entered Grihastha Ashram, I took some training in computer programming, and I went out to one of the very competitive, high-pressure computer consulting company called EDS, very famous in the U.S., Ross Perot's EDS. And of course I didn't have any work experience, so what am I going to put on my resume? I put Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. That's all I can put down, because I had been a countercultural dropout, and then I became a devotee. I worked at a summer camp teaching guitar lessons to kids, and that was about it, I didn't have much of a resume for getting into EDS, so I just put Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and actually it was illegal. He said, "Oh, Bhaktivedanta, that's something Indian, so you wouldn't be very competitive. We don't want you. Basically, you're rejected because you're something from India." They had this idea of Gandhi, that you don't non-violent, non-resistance type of non-competitive. Of course, Gandhi actually was very competitive. He just had he was so competitive he drove the British out of India. He was very competitive. But they had this idea that India is very non-competitive mood, you see. Which is not really true, because what are the two classics of Indian literature, Ramayana and Mahabharata? Who are the great heroes? Hanuman and Arjuna. They are very competitive. You see, Hanuman, he lit the whole city of Lanka on fire. You see? So, be Krishna conscious doesn't mean you become an impotent eunuch. No, and one can be very competitive. Prabhupada said, I act like a king because nobody can defeat me. He told us that in Africa. So we're very humble before Guru and Krishna. Before the materialists, we're very aggressive. We're very, very aggressive. One of my god-sisters, Mula Prakriti Devi Dasi, she was very expert at going to the airports and doing the big books. You have to be very aggressive to do that in the airport. So she wondered, well, I'm a woman, I'm supposed to be really humble. What is this okay? I mean, what? So Prabhupada told her, he said, I came here as an aggressor to this country. I wasn't invited to come to America. I came as an aggressor. So he's sort of like that, a lion in the chase and a lamb at home. So amongst the devotees, we're very meek and humble, you see. But out in the material world, the devotee can be very, very aggressive, you see. We want to take over the world for Prabhupada. We want devotees to become leaders in every field, business, military, politics, entertainment industry. We want in every single field devotees should become the leaders. So we're very encouraged any devotees who have this competitive nature to get ahead in the material world. Do it for Krishna. Do it for Krishna. Offer the results of it to Krishna. Don't take it for sense gratification. Okay, some questions have come in. On paper. Why dirt or anarthas accumulate in the heart? This is not talking about the physical heart, this is the consciousness. It's not the physical heart. Of course, the soul is seated in the heart, physical heart. But it's not that you can, take a bunch of water and, squirt it through your veins and clean your heart out. Like they do this cholesterol treatment or something. It's not like that. It's a subtle thing. And it is, the dirt in the heart is accumulated around the Atma, the soul that is carried in the subtle body from birth to birth. Therefore, get rid of it by chanting Hare Krishna. And you come up here devotee. How to avoid bad habits and develop the mode of goodness? Well, whatever bad habits you are, replace them with good habits. That's a simple thing. If you have a tendency to talk nonsense, just babble on, somebody gossiping, gossip, and talk about Krishna. Learn some verses, quote some shlokas. Machchita madgita prana, bodhayantak parasparam, katayantashtamam nityam, tashyantacha ramantacha. The thoughts of my devotees dwell in me. Their lives are surrendered unto me, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss by enlightening one another and conversing about me. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, text number 9. So if you will take your habit of chatting, your chatting habit, and you will talk about Krishna, then that will get rid of your bad habit of talking nonsense. So in every way, every bad habit, Krishna is every bad habit you have. Anything else? Questions? Hare Krishna. What does association with devotees mean? Does it mean just being in contact with them or listening to Krishna Katha from them? It means both things, certainly. Sometimes there are other things done in the name of association, like talking about other devotees, how to avoid that. In other words, sometimes neophyte devotees do things which are actually offensive. Should I participate in that or not? Or should I distance myself from that? This question is answered by Prabhupada And a purport in the Bhagavatam, and Pading Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, that there are devotees in different modes of nature. Devotees in the mode of ignorance are proud, they're arrogant, they're full of fault-finding and slander. We respect when they're devotees, we don't mix with them. So you need to find those devotees who have positive energy and associate with them. We don't disrespect any devotees, even the ones who are full of negative energy, because we want to encourage them to come up. But you need to take shelter of the association of those who are positive energy devotees, who are always appreciating other Vaishnavas, not the ones who are always finding fault with other Vaishnavas. How do I improve my thinking on a subtle level? Thoughts are subtle by their very nature. They're not gross, they're subtle. You can't pinch them. So, the real question really is then, how to improve my thoughts? How to improve my thinking? That is the real question. So, you have to think about Krishna. Think about Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. Think about Krishna killing the Aghasura demon. Think about Krishna's name, his beautiful name. Think about his qualities. Think about his teachings. Fill your heart with thoughts of Krishna, his name, his fame, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, his entourage, that means his associates, his paraphernalia like his flute, his peacock feather, his yellow dhoti. Just by reading, by hearing, by chanting, by looking at beautiful photographs of Krishna, or posting them all over your house, by coming to the temple and taking deep, deep, deep the darshan of the Lord into your heart. Drink the darshan of the Lord deep into your heart by lovingly looking at the Lord and inviting Him into your heart. In this way you can purify your thinking process. How do grahastha couples help each other progressing in Krishna consciousness? You should be a good example for your spouse. And you should learn from your spouse's good example also. You should be the best possible example of Krishna consciousness for your spouse, thinking, I have a duty to my spouse to be good association for my spouse. At the same time, you should see what you can always learn from your spouse, how to be more Krishna conscious. This applies whether it's husband and wife or it's two close friends, the same thing. There may be two female devotees who are close friends, the same principle can be applied. Two male devotees who are close friends, the same principle. Those with whom we have close relationships, we should always be an ideal example for the other person, and we should always see how we can learn from their example of Krishna consciousness to be more Krishna conscious ourselves. Looks like any more questions? Here comes one. Is there another method to become Krishna conscious instead of chanting the mantra? Yes, but not in this age. It is stated in the Brihadaradiya Purana, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, Gatira Yuta. Chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. There is no other alternative. There is no other alternative. There is no other alternative for God realization in this age. So if you want to try some, if you don't like chanting and you want to get by another means, then you'll have to wait for another yuga. Which means you'll have to wait for 427,000 years to become Krishna conscious. So if you don't like chanting, but you want to make it by some other means, then be prepared for many, many births and deaths in a very, very hellish atmosphere at the end of the Kali Yuga. When whatever devotees are left will be hiding in caves for fear of being eaten alive by the cannibals. It's a very, very heavy time. So I recommend that if you have a desire to do it by another way, give it a take this way, which is the yuga. Take this way, the yuga dharma, which is the chanting. You may think, well, I don't like the chanting. I'd rather do it by yoga asanas. You don't have a duration of life to do it by yoga asanas. The mystic yoga system, Valmiki Muni, took him 60,000 years to perfect it in an age when people lived to be 100,000. So I request you give up any idea of doing it by other means because it's not practical. Besides that, the holy name is so sweet. I mean, it's like a glove jamun in your mouth at every minute. It's like popping a glove jamun every minute. I mean, who wouldn't want to chant Hare Krishna? The Hare Krishna is the supreme glove jamun. It oozes out unlimited oceans of nectar that more than the universe can even hold. You see? So why not take the glove jamun method? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so is that it? Yeah, looks like that's it. Okay, so everyone try to be very, very dedicated now to this process of awakening your dormant Krishna consciousness through these wonderful steps, step by step by step, gradually now. Kindly take this, whatever level you're on, be happy and enthused at that level. If at the level you don't want to be initiated, you just want to associate with devotees, well, do that with great joy and enthusiasm. Whatever level you're at, do it with great joy and enthusiasm. And by that enthusiastic devotional service, you will naturally, gradually progress to the next stage, and the next stage, and the next stage, and before you know it, Krishna will reveal himself to you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.